Binance enters the Japanese market in a regulated way via acquiring Sakura Exchange. Gemini gets regulatory green light in Italy and Greece amid its lending pause. World largest shipping company ditches IBM blockchain as commercially unviable. Solana-based decentralized exchange Serum now defunct after FTX and Alameda implosion. Brazil passes law to legalize crypto as a payment method. And privacy-focused secret network vulnerability discovered by security researchers. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Assets of Value podcast. Today, on November the 30th, and every day, we connect to give an industry insider's perspective on crypto, Web3, and NFT topics. We are the founders of Assets of Value, a Web3 research organization. We aim to discuss, inform, and share opinions on the hottest Web3 topics. Our podcast is not to be taken as legal or financial advice. Abe, it's Wednesday midweek. How are the markets today?
Yesterday we did mention Sanda pump, and it's happening. Sanda rally is happening. Show up. Bitcoin bounced back to 16.9k levels, and we are expecting Bitcoin to close above 17.5k this week. And just remember that this comes with a great moment in the history because Brazil just passed a law accepting Bitcoin as a legal payment mechanism. This is historic. This day should be marked as the day Bitcoin started to crouch into the developing nations.
So this is the second country, right, that has now Bitcoin as legal tender. What was it? El Salvador being the first, and now Brazil, a famous footballing nation, following suit on this regard.
Well, theoretically, this is the second nation, but there has been other nations that have promised to adapt Bitcoin standard. But you very well understand that there can be time delays when it comes to enacting a law. And I think Brazil, they are progressing with the right direction and right mindset because now they understand that, see, they are not removing their currency. That's the most important thing. El Salvador had a serious inflation problem and they just removed their currency and accepted Bitcoin as the sole payment mechanism. But Brazil is not doing that. Brazil is retaining its currency, and on top of that, they are accepting Bitcoin as a legal payment mechanism or legal tender. There's massive difference in both approaches.
Super bullish news nonetheless. And you're right about this Santa pump. He's come to visit us early. The markets are looking green at the moment. At the time of recording, it's pre-markets in the USA time zone. So looking all green and positive right now. Binance has acquired 100% of Sakura Exchange Bitcoin, known by the ticker SEBC. And this gives Binance a footing into the Japanese market in a regulated way. Is CZ doing the same thing as SBF? Because he was going around buying or making regulatory moves in certain jurisdictions so that the reach of his exchange is now cross borders. Is Binance doing the same thing? And what does this mean from both the Japanese crypto enthusiasts as well as the exchange itself?
Japan was controlling the 60% of the Bitcoin flow back in 2014, 2013 times. Together with Japan, China joined the race, and when the government realized that Bitcoin is or cryptocurrencies are taking up the market, they banned Bitcoin. So this has been going on for a long time. And the recent move from Binance tells us that Asian market is extremely important for Binance because we know that most of the volume, crypto volume, comes from United States. The second is Singapore, and Singapore is in Asia, and the rest of the Asian nations, they account for a lot of transactions, a lot of volume, but it's not under the domain because most of the people in China are using VPNs to access the internet. And the Binance move is a golden example to prove that if Binance is looking for Asian markets, that means Asian markets can bloom in the next run. And Binance has been investing in Asian projects. And this also tells us that maybe if we look for startups from Asia, especially crypto startups from Asia, they can have a massive run in the next bull run because Binance will be supporting them.
positive to see, and another proof of what feels like an unlimited reserves that CZ stroke Binance have. Kind of staying with the theme of exchanges, sad news around Serum, which was a Solana based decentralized exchange, is now defunct due to its exposure or reliance on FTX and Alameda. So that's not good news. It takes away a decentralized platform. It's not good news for the Solana ecosystem. And it's another example of a company being affected by the crisis and circumstances of FTX. In regards to regulations, we've got Gemini given approval in Italy and Greece. This is really surprising because Gemini has currently got a halt or is stopping its lending practices. As we know that such takeovers or applications of operation in a different jurisdiction do take their time. So I think even Binance must have been planning this takeover and entering the Japanese market long before FTX. And potentially it could be the same for Gemini. They were processing application or regulatory approval in Italy and Greece. The story coming out now just seems bad timing, really. Do you think it can continue to operate, although it's not actually generating any income because it has stopped lending to its customers?
Yes, it can. Because we have to see the big picture here. Gemini is not a strong exchange. And when it just goes to countries like Italy, probably they will be forced to stop lending. Because, see, if the lending market collapses in Germany, it will affect Greece, Italy, and all these citizens. And these nations, they don't want to allow that. And we have seen these projects and exchanges moving to US also. They stop lending once they move to the US. I think this is a positive move because we now know that lending in centralized exchanges, it's not a safe practice because your collateral is not your collateral, your assets are not your assets, and these exchanges can play with your assets in whatever ways they want to.
It is still impressive that Gemini has got this approval across Europe, Italy, Greece, who knows where else it's applying for regulatory green light. Moving away and into the blockchain space, the world largest shipping company, known as, how do I say this properly, Maersk, they were using the IBM blockchain, but they've come out now and said that they're actually ditching this blockchain because it's commercially unviable. Despite its wide usage, TradeLens lacked the global integration necessary to make it viable as an independent company. So TradeLens was the IBM backed blockchain. This just opens the door. Do we need as many, or do we need a massive amount of blockchains? Because Maersk, the international shipping company, if you ever seen a kind of video of any shipping container, it usually has the name Maersk on it. They are coming out and saying, look, the blockchain that we had identified for our logistics and operations, it's not viable because it's not interconnected enough. Now, that leads me to ask the question, do we need so many blockchains? What do you think?
Do we need so many clothing brands? Do we need so many banks? Yes, Rob, we need a lot of them because people ultimately are given the choice of making their transaction or making their investments in whatever projects or whatever trends, ideas they believe in. And in that sense, for example, let's see, we know a lot of layer one projects like top quality layer one projects like Cosmos, Ethereum, BNB, and layer two projects like Polygon, Immutable X. These are very good projects. But does that mean that a project like Fuse, which is doing a payment thing on its own, they shouldn't stop, right? They should continue to develop and evolve. And I think it's important to have a multi-chain future because if we just have Ethereum, the gas prices are unsustainable. If we just have Polkadot, the user onboarding is pretty bad. If we have just Cosmos, that business model may not just work because it's not focusing on revenue. It's just focused on building and user interface. And each blockchain has its own pros and cons. And maybe it's just better to have a multi-chain future ahead of us.
Speaking of a multi-chain future, Phantom Wallet, which is predominantly on the Solana blockchain, that has now adopted a multi-chain strategy. It is now supporting Ethereum and Polygon. So this actually ties straight back into what you were saying, Abe, in the sense that the future does look like we do need all of these chains because they're not fully trusted and they're not mature enough to be reliable at the moment. And it comes same for wallets that users will interact with. No point having one wallet associated to one chain. And Phantom is actually picking up on this user behavior and actually trying to increase this adoption. Do you think that every wallet provider, MetaMask, Phantom, the ones available on Aptos and Tezos and XRP, will all of these wallets eventually turn into a piece of software that can connect to any blockchain? How do you see it panning out?
Phantom is making the right moves because they understand that the narrative doesn't fit well with the Solana network, and Polygon is gaining momentum. It's gaining traction from users, and most importantly, it's gaining partnerships, interest from the crypto community and Web2 world. I think it's crucial for Phantom to take a multi-chain approach because all these wallets, successful wallets you see, for example, MetaMask, they have a multi-chain strategy. Kepler, multi-chain strategy. And even some of the Aptos wallets, they are promised to support Sui and Aptos. And we obviously know Trust Wallet supports most of the cryptocurrencies. So we should think, why not Phantom? Because it should also have a multi-chain strategy in its pocket. Because if and only if Solana fails to deliver for the next bull run, I think Phantom must have a bright future ahead with Polygon and everything.
Yeah, it is covering its bases and actually expanding. It also aligns with what Magic Eden are doing, which is the prominent NFT marketplace within Solana ecosystem. They have now bridged out to Ethereum, and I believe soon, if not already, they will be looking to host Polygon NFTs as well. And we've seen the same on OpenSea. Currently, that's with MetaMask, but with this cross-chain interaction and further product features on each of the actual wallets themselves, it's definitely showing a sign of maturity within the Web3 world. I'd like to touch on a couple of things. On today, I'm going to ask you, what are the research areas that you're looking into at the moment?
For now, I'm focused on layer 2 solutions because we see that layer 2s on Ethereum might have a better future ahead because people just like to consolidate. For example, if you ask a crypto person if he can store all of his assets in MetaMask, then it might be the best option for him. But for us, we have multiple wallets, multiple seed phrases, and it's all a mess to track everything, keep everything safe and all. And the best thing about layer 2 solutions are that they support and they inherit the security from Ethereum, and they process transactions in a cheap manner, in a gasless environment also at times. And for user adoptions, these are very important points.
Interesting. I wonder if EVMs come into play there. So we know that if you're not on Ethereum network, or you're not a layer two, many of the other blockchains, Solana recently announced, or there's a team within the Solana ecosystem that is announcing an EVM solutions for it. I wonder if those come into the picture. But it's always insightful to know where your thinking is at this current point in time. As always, it's been super fun. I'm glad you were able to jam with us today. That's it. Until next time, thank you, everybody, and we're signing off.